In the darkness of that guest room, two lives collided without either of them knowing it. One woman, drugged and violated, losing everything she held dear. One man, equally drugged and confused, about to become obsessed with finding a ghost. This is episode 2 of Drugged and Divorced, the night everything changed. Previously on episode 1, Brittany Matthews discovered her 6-month marriage was a lie. Her husband Richard and stepsister Veronica drugged her, orchestrated a scandal, and framed her for adultery. She woke up next to a stranger, her virginity stolen, her world destroyed. But what really happened that night? And who was the mysterious man in the darkness? Welcome back to Urban Folks TV channel. Before we continue with this story, let us know in the comment section where you are watching from. And if you are new here, hit the like and subscribe button, and don't forget turn on your notification to get notified whenever we drop a video. The guest room was dimly lit by a single bedside lamp casting long shadows across the walls. Brittany lay unconscious on the bed, her breathing slow and labored from whatever Richard had put in her wine. The drug was powerful, something he'd obtained specifically for this purpose. She was aware but paralyzed, trapped in her own body. Outside the door, Richard and Veronica waited with a photographer, a sleazy private investigator Richard had hired for this exact moment. "Is she completely out?" Veronica whispered, her voice eager with anticipation. Richard checked his watch. "Should be. I gave her enough to keep her under for hours. Where's your friend? The one you said would do this for $5,000. Veronica's face fell slightly. "He texted me 10 minutes ago. He's backing out. Says it's too risky, that drugging someone for fake evidence crosses a legal line he's not willing to cross." "What?" Richard's voice rose dangerously. "You promised me this would work. We need evidence of her with another man, or the divorce won't go in our favor. Her father's lawyers made sure of that in the prenup. Infidelity is the only grounds that strip her of everything." I know, Veronica hissed. "Just give me a minute to think." At that moment, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Both Richard and Veronica turned to see a man in an expensive suit walking toward them, looking confused and slightly unsteady on his feet. "Excuse me," the man said, his words slightly slurred. "I'm looking for Charles Whitmore. I was told this was his estate. I have an urgent business matter to discuss with him." Richard's eyes narrowed, then widened with sudden opportunity. This man was clearly disoriented, probably already drugged by someone at whatever event he'd come from. He was tall, handsome, well-dressed. "Perfect. Charles isn't here," Richard said smoothly, moving toward the stranger. "But you don't look well. Why don't you come rest for a moment? You seem unsteady." The man blinked slowly, trying to focus. "I do feel strange. I was at a reception across town, had one drink, and suddenly, he stumbled slightly. Anthony James, though Richard didn't know his name, had indeed been drugged. He'd been attending a business function when someone had slipped something into his champagne, hoping to make him vulnerable for a business negotiation. The drug was taking full effect now, and he'd somehow ended up at the wrong estate entirely. "Come, sit down," Veronica said, her voice saccharine sweet as she took his arm. She exchanged a meaningful look with Richard. This was even better than their original plan. A real stranger, already drugged, disoriented. Perfect. They guided Anthony toward the guest room door. "Just rest here for a moment," Richard said. "We'll call you a car." Anthony's mind was foggy, his body moving without his full control. He felt himself being led into a dimly lit room. There was a bed. Someone was already there, a woman. He could barely make out her features in the darkness. "What's?" he tried to ask, but his words came out jumbled. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Outside, Richard positioned the photographer. "Wait 15 minutes, then start taking pictures. Make sure you get clear shots of both of them." "Richard, are you sure about this?" the photographer asked nervously. "This seems. You're being paid very well to not have opinions," Richard snapped. "Just do your job." Anthony stumbled toward the bed, his legs giving out. He collapsed onto the mattress beside the unconscious woman. Through the drug-induced haze, he tried to focus on her face. Even in his confused state, he thought she was beautiful. Terrified, but beautiful. Her eyes were open but unfocused, tears streaming down her cheeks. She was trying to speak but couldn't form words. Just like him, she was trapped in her own body. "Are you okay?" he managed to whisper, though he wasn't sure if any sound actually came out. Brittany's mind screamed. She could see him now, dark hair, strong features, expensive suit. A stranger. She wanted to run, to fight, to scream, but her body wouldn't obey. The drug held her prisoner. Anthony reached out instinctively, his drugged mind registering her distress even through his own confusion. His hand touched her face, wiping away tears he didn't understand. "Don't cry," he slurred. It's going to be okay." But it wasn't going to be okay. For either of them. The drugs in their systems created a fog neither could penetrate. Time became meaningless. Reality blurred. Neither of them would remember clearly what happened next, just fragments. Touches they didn't initiate. Movements they didn't control. Their bodies responding to chemical manipulation while their minds floated somewhere far away. Anthony would later recall only flashes: soft skin, the scent of jasmine perfume, frightened eyes that mirrored his own confusion, a sense of wrongness that he couldn't articulate. Brittany would remember even less, just darkness, violation, and the terrible feeling of being utterly powerless in her own life. Outside the door, after exactly 15 minutes, the photographer began taking pictures. Flash after flash, capturing two drugged people in a situation neither had chosen, creating evidence of a crime that would be used to destroy an innocent woman's life. Anthony woke with a start in the back of his own car, his driver shaking him gently. "Mr. James? Sir, we're at your penthouse. You called me at 4 a.m. to come pick you up from some estate in the suburbs. You seemed very disoriented." Anthony sat up slowly, his head pounding like someone had taken a hammer to his skull. "I called you." "Yes, sir. You could barely tell me where you were. I had to use the GPS tracker on your phone to find you. You were standing outside some mansion, your clothes disheveled. I've never seen you like that, sir." Anthony looked down at himself. His suit jacket was missing. His shirt was buttoned wrong. There were scratches on his hands he couldn't explain. And there, on his neck, visible in the rearview mirror, a mark. A love bite. "What the hell happened to me?" he muttered. "I was hoping you could tell me, sir. Should I be concerned? Should we call the police?"
No.
No police. Anthony's mind raced, trying to piece together the previous evening. He remembered the business reception. One glass of champagne. Feeling strange. Deciding to leave. Everything after that was blank. No, not completely blank. There were images. Fragments. A woman's face. Hazel eyes filled with fear. Soft brown hair with golden highlights. The scent of jasmine. A feeling of terrible wrongness. "Take me home," Anthony said quietly. "I need to think." As his driver pulled away from the curb, Anthony stared out the window, that woman's face haunting him. Who was she? Why couldn't he remember? And why did he feel like something terrible had happened, not just to him but to her? While Anthony was trying to piece together his missing night, Brittany sat in her locked bedroom, knees pulled to her chest, shaking uncontrollably. She'd showered 3 times, scrubbing her skin until it was raw, but she still felt dirty, violated, broken. Outside her door, she could hear Richard making phone calls, his voice carrying through the thick wood. "Yes. I want to file for divorce immediately. Grounds? Adultery. I have photographic evidence. No. I'm not interested in counseling. This marriage is over. She betrayed me in my own home. Yes. I'll be in your office this afternoon." Each word was a knife twisting in Brittany's heart. He was actually going through with it. After orchestrating her violation, he was now playing the victim. A soft knock on her door made her jump. "Brittany?" It was Maria, one of the housekeepers who'd worked for her father. "I brought you some tea and toast. Please, you need to eat something." Brittany crawled to the door, unlocking it just enough to let Maria slip inside before locking it again. Maria's kind face creased with worry as she saw Brittany's state. Oh, Mija, what has happened? They drugged me, Maria, Brittany whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. Richard and Veronica. They planned this. The dinner, the wine, everything. They set me up with some stranger and took pictures. Now Richard's filing for divorce and claiming I cheated. Maria's hand flew to her mouth. Dios mío. We must call the police. This is a crime. With what proof? Brittany laughed bitterly. He has photographs of me in bed with another man. I was drugged. But who's going to believe that? Richard's family has connections, lawyers, money. I have nothing. My father's gone. The estate trustees will believe Richard over me. And Veronica will back up every lie he tells. Your father's lawyer, Mr. Patterson. He could help. Richard already called him this morning. I heard him. He's painting me as an unfaithful wife who's making desperate accusations. Patterson probably already believes I'm unstable. Maria set down the tea tray and knelt beside Brittany, taking her hands. Then what will you do? I don't know, Brittany whispered. I don't even know who that man was last night. I never saw his face clearly. I couldn't stop what was happening. And now, she broke down sobbing again. Now I've lost everything that made me who I am. Richard sat behind his mahogany desk. Veronica perched on the edge, both of them reviewing the photographs the private investigator had delivered in a sealed envelope. These are perfect, Veronica purred, flipping through the images. You can clearly see her face, the other man, the intimate positioning. No judge would rule in her favor with this evidence. The prenup was airtight, Richard said with satisfaction. Her father made sure that if either of us committed adultery, the innocent party gets everything. The mansion, the investment portfolio, the properties, the foundation, it all becomes mine. Well, ours, he added, pulling Veronica into his lap. She giggled. I can't believe it worked. When that stranger showed up, I thought we were finished. But he was already drugged from wherever he'd come from. It was like fate handed us the perfect fall guy. Do you think he'll remember anything? Richard asked, a flicker of concern crossing his face. Veronica shrugged. Even if he does, what's he going to do? Come forward and admit he was in bed with a married woman? That he might have been drugged too? He looked wealthy. Men like that don't invite scandals. He'll keep his mouth shut and pretend it never happened. And Brittany? What about her? She has no proof of anything. It's her word against ours, and we have photographs. By the time we're done with her, she'll be lucky to leave with the clothes on her back. Veronica's smile was cruel. Your dear wife is about to learn what happens when you're not careful about who you trust. Richard laughed, pulling her closer. We should celebrate. 6 months of pretending to be a devoted husband was torture. But it's all going to pay off now. How much is the estate worth? Including properties, investments, and liquid assets? About 47 million. Veronica's eyes widened. 47 million? And it's all about to be yours. Ours, Richard corrected. You helped me plan this. Once the divorce is final and enough time has passed, you and I can finally be together publicly. We'll sell this mausoleum, buy something in Manhattan, live the life we deserve. What neither of them knew was that Maria stood just outside the study door, having come to ask about the linen order. She'd heard everything, every cruel word, every calculated plan. Her hands trembled with rage as she quietly backed away from the door. She'd worked for the Matthews family for 20 years. She'd watched Brittany grow up. She'd mourned with her when her father died. And now she would help her fight back. Anthony stood in front of his floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over the city but seeing nothing. He'd spent the morning trying to reconstruct the previous night, but the harder he tried to remember, the more the memories seemed to slip away like water through his fingers. His assistant, Marcus, knocked on the door. Mr. James? The toxicology results from your private doctor came back. Anthony turned. And you were drugged, sir. Rohypnol, combined with a sedative. A heavy dose. The doctor says you're lucky you didn't have respiratory failure. He also says memory loss is common with this combination, and the memories may never fully return. Anthony's jaw clenched. Someone drugged me. At the reception. It appears so. The doctor found traces that indicate ingestion about 7 or 8 hours before your blood was drawn this morning. So someone at that business function deliberately drugged me. Anthony's mind raced through the guest list. Competitors. Potential hostile takeover threats. People who'd want him vulnerable. There's something else, sir. Marcus hesitated. The doctor found evidence of recent sexual activity. Anthony closed his eyes. He'd suspected as much, but having it confirmed made his chest tighten with a feeling he couldn't name. Guilt? Violation? Both? I don't remember consenting to anything, he said quietly. Sir, if you were drugged with Rohypnol, you legally couldn't consent. You're a victim here. And what about the woman? Anthony's voice was barely a whisper. The one I can't stop seeing every time I close my eyes? Was she a victim too? Marcus didn't have an answer for that. Anthony turned back to the window, that woman's face still haunting him. Hazel eyes. Fear. Tears. Something about the situation felt wrong in a way that went beyond his own violation. Marcus, I need you to do something for me. Of course, sir. Find out where I was last night. You said my driver used GPS to track my phone and found me outside some mansion in the suburbs. I need to know whose estate that was. I need to know what happened in that house. Sir, is that wise? If you were drugged and taken advantage of, perhaps it's better to— That woman, Anthony interrupted. I need to know if she's okay. I need to know if she was drugged too. I can't explain it, Marcus, but I feel like we were both victims of something terrible. And I need to find her. Marcus nodded slowly. I'll start investigating immediately. As Marcus left, Anthony touched the mark on his neck. The only physical evidence of a night he couldn't remember. Somewhere in this city was a woman with hazel eyes and brown hair with golden highlights. A woman who might be just as confused and frightened as he was. He would find her, no matter how long it took. Maria returned to Brittany's room as the sun was setting, this time with more than just tea. I heard them, she said without preamble. In the study, talking about how they planned everything. How they drugged you both, you and the stranger. How they're going to take everything from you. Brittany looked up, her eyes red and swollen. Both. The man in the photographs. They said he was already drugged when he arrived. That he stumbled into the mansion looking for someone else. They used him, Brittany, just like they used you. A strange feeling washed over Brittany. Not relief exactly, but something close to it. The stranger hadn't chosen this either. He'd been a victim too. Did they say who he was? No. But they think he'll stay silent because he's wealthy and won't want the scandal. Maria pulled out her phone. I recorded them, Mija. I recorded everything they said. It's not much, but it's something. Brittany stared at the phone. This could help. It proves they planned it. Proves you were drugged. Combined with a blood test, if there are still traces in your system. I showered, Brittany said dully. Multiple times. I scrubbed everything away. I probably destroyed any evidence. Not in your blood. Not yet. We need to get you to a hospital, get you tested. We need to move fast before the drugs are completely out of your system. For the first time since the nightmare began, Brittany felt a small spark of something that might have been hope. It was fragile, easily crushed, but it was there. They're going to fight me with everything they have, she said. Richard's family has lawyers, connections. And you have the truth, Maria said firmly. And you have people who loved your father and will fight for his daughter. Not everyone has been bought by Richard's money. Brittany stood on shaky legs. Then let's fight back. Dr. Sarah Chun reviewed Brittany's blood test results with a grave expression. Maria sat beside Brittany, holding her hand. The good news is that there are still detectable traces of Rohypnol and a sedative in your system, Dr. Chun said. The bad news is that these drugs are commonly associated with sexual assault. Combined with your testimony of what happened, we need to contact the police. No, Brittany said immediately. Not yet. Ms. Matthews, if you were drugged and assaulted, it's more complicated than that. My husband orchestrated this. He drugged me and set up the situation deliberately. If I go to the police now, he'll use his connections to make me look unstable. I need time to build a case, to gather evidence. Dr. Chen frowned. I'm a mandatory reporter. If I believe a crime has been committed, please, Brittany begged, just give me a few days. Document everything. Keep the blood samples. I'm not asking you to hide anything, just to give me time to find a lawyer I can trust before this becomes public. Dr. Chun looked between Brittany and Maria, then sighed. I'll document everything thoroughly, but Ms. Matthews, time is not on your side. These drugs clear the system quickly, and if you are pregnant from this assault, you'll want legal protection in place before that becomes apparent. Pregnant. The word hit Brittany like a physical blow. She hadn't even considered that possibility. After everything else, losing her home, her money, her dignity, the thought of carrying a stranger's child was almost too much to bear. Let's take this one step at a time, Maria said gently, squeezing Brittany's hand. First, we secure these test results. Then we find a lawyer. Then we fight. Marcus returned to Anthony's penthouse with information. The estate belongs to Richard Whitmore, he reported. He married into the Matthews family 6 months ago. His wife is Brittany Matthews, sole heir to the Matthews fortune, following her father's death 2 years ago. Matthews, Anthony repeated. Something about the name stirred a vague memory, but he couldn't grasp it. There's more, sir. I have a contact at the county clerk's office. Richard Whitmore filed for divorce this morning. Grounds, adultery. Anthony's blood ran cold. Adultery? Yes, sir. Which means the woman in that house, the one you can't remember clearly, she might have been Richard Whitmore's wife. Brittany Matthews. Anthony sank into a chair. The pieces were starting to form a picture, and he didn't like what he was seeing. If he filed for divorce this morning, immediately after whatever happened last night, it suggests he was planning this, Marcus finished. That it wasn't a chance encounter. We were both drugged, Anthony said slowly. Both taken advantage of, and now he's using it as grounds for divorce? This was deliberate. He set this up. That's my assessment as well, sir. The question is, what do you want to do about it? Anthony stood, his jaw set with determination. Find her. Find Brittany Matthews. I don't care what it costs or how long it takes. Find her and make sure she's safe. If this bastard is capable of drugging his own wife to frame her for adultery, there's no telling what else he might do. And when we find her, then I tell her the truth, that I was drugged too, that I'm a victim in this just like she is. And then, Anthony's hands clenched into fists. Then we make Richard Whitmore pay for what he's done. Closing. As night fell over the city, 3 people made decisions that would change the course of all their lives. Brittany Matthews, broken but not defeated, decided to fight for her life and her father's legacy. Anthony James, haunted by fragments of a night he couldn't remember, decided to find the mysterious woman with hazel eyes and make sure she was safe. And Richard Whitmore, confident in his victory, had no idea that the empire he was building on lies would soon come crashing down around him. But fighting back would be harder than any of them imagined. Because Brittany was about to discover she had more to lose than she ever thought possible. And Anthony was about to learn that the woman he was searching for was carrying the most precious secret of all. Brittany has evidence, but is it enough? Will Anthony find her before Richard destroys her completely? And what will happen when they discover the truth? Episode 3, Stripped Bare, coming soon. Like and subscribe to Urban Folks TV channel for the next episode. Drop a comment. Should Brittany trust Anthony when she finds out who he is?